Father God, we thank you so very much for this day. We thank you for your blessings, your grace, and your mercy. Most of all, we thank you for your love. We thank you for the knowledge and the wisdom that will be imparted into this talk right here that all of us are much in need of. So we ask that you open our hearts and our minds, and those who will hear what we have to say, let them receive it with great joy, and let it be very productive. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so two more people came on. Hi, Tiffany. Hey, Carlos. How are you?
Good evening, everyone.
Okay. All right. So I'm so excited because this is our 10th week. And I'm telling y'all, I didn't know that it was going to go like this, but I'm so thankful. Before we start, I just want to introduce a couple. I met them about, I think, a month ago, not even a month ago, at a singles conference. And this is Bernice and Teresa Burrows. And they are marriage counselors as well. And she has a book out. It's called Polish Your Diamond. She has actually several books out. And then there's another one, so I'll let her talk about that in a few. I wanted Bernie to come on, both of them really, but Bernie had a wonderful testimony. And it just melted everybody's heart, but he was transparent. He was very honest, that's what we need right now. And coming from a man, and that's what I tell Steve and Carlos and everybody else, especially the men, I appreciate you all because you are so honest and transparent. So I'm grateful for that. So Bernie, it's titled Before We Find the Right One That God Sends. We sometimes encounter the counterfeits and along the way. So I'm going to introduce Bernie. He will tell you his story of his relationship before he met the love of his life that God sent him. So Bernie, you have the floor.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone has had a great day.
Mhm.
And I do appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. And I do want to share my testimony of how I went from the hurt part into the happy part. Well, let me see. Where would I start? I would start back when I was doing my own thing. I would start back there. I was doing my own thing, running, dating and everything, playing around. I would call it that way, but I was always on the end of getting hurt. And I got to the point where I just got tired of getting played. I'm being a upfront guy. I called it being upfront, and everyone had an agenda, to get something from me, to hurt me in some kind of way. That's the way I felt, And so I had made up my mind. One day I made up my mind, and I said, I'm tired of being hurt. I'm tired of being used. I'm tired of being played over. I'm gonna start doing it now. I'm gonna start going out here like it. I'm gonna start hurting people now because I'm tired of beginning. So that's what I had planned to do. But the Lord, in His grace and mercy, I'm gonna tell you, He stopped me before I could even get started because I was gonna start the next day. And the Lord stopped me right then and there. He was somebody that came across my path and told me. He said, "Don't do it because if you do it, you're gonna miss the person that God has for you." And that froze. I mean, I was frozen in my tracks. I couldn't move. I was like, and I was like, I got a chance to think about what I was about to do. I was acting out of hurt and pain. I was acting out of bitterness. I wasn't thinking like that, but I was just thinking, I'm gonna get back because everybody's got me, so I'm gonna start getting back too. But the Lord stopped me in my tracks, and I'm so thankful He did. When you surrender, then God can do what He needs to do in your life. But you gotta surrender. You gotta get over all the hurt and the pain. You gotta just change. You gotta change, and that's what I did. I surrendered everything to God. I said, I'm tired of doing it my way. I'm tired of all the things because everything's happening because I'm doing it. I want to do something I never did before. And I was allow the Lord to bless me with what I need. See, I'm going after what I think I want. It was never about a need. It was always a want. And I'm going after that, headstrong, going after that, yeah. But you gotta get to the point where you're tired of bumping your head against the wall, against the brick wall. I'm tired of getting the same results. I'm tired of this. You gotta get to that point. I mean, hopefully you don't never get to the point where you bruise yourself badly. But I gave everything to the Lord, and I said, Lord, I'm gonna do it your way. And it wasn't long that the Lord was giving me instructions on what to do. And you have to listen to the instructions in order for things to happen, because the Lord won't give you all the instructions all at once. It's gonna give you step-by-step instructions. And the instructions came as the first one was, stop, don't bring nothing else into this year that you were doing on last year. So it was like the end of the year, and it took me 3 months to stop doing what I had been doing the following year. So once I stopped that, the Lord gave me another instruction. And that instruction was, don't get involved with nobody here on your job. And it was amazing because I had my eye on somebody on that job. And then when the Lord said that, I said, okay, Lord, get ready to do something. And then the Lord gave me a vision. And he showed me, that the bride that I had, but she had a veil over her face, so I couldn't see her face. And she was dressed in white with a veil over her face. And we were holding hands in a doorway. And she backed into the doorway, and a big white curtain came in front, and I came into the room, and I didn't know where she was. But all these windows were looking the same. Every window I passed, a guy came up to, a bride came out, dressed the same way the bride was that I first had my hands on. She went back. Then I get to another window, another bride came out, and then another bride came out. Every window I passed, a bride came out, but went back. And what the Lord was showing me, that those are the imposters that are going to come. And that's where we have to be awakened to the point of, we can ask God for what we want, but be aware that the devil also hears. And you have to be aware. That's why you have to have God involved in every step that you take. Because once he gives you instructions, you got to pray for the rest of the way to go. Because the devil's going to send you imposters to try to throw you off of what God has for you. God's going to give you his best, but you got to be willing to go with God and not with the devil, because it's going to come. You're going to get many imposters. They're going to think they got it all, but if you take your time and allow God to speak, he's going to guide you the right way. He's going to tell you what not to do. And I prayed over everyone that came into my life. Every imposter that came, I prayed over them. The Lord would say, nope, that's not the one. And I went on to that, because I was like, I'm not going to waste your time, and I don't want you to waste mine. I'm looking for a wife, not a girlfriend. So that was my purpose. I'm going forth looking at it. And then I would say after that, the Lord showed me so much after that. The person that I had my eye on at my job, the Lord showed me something about her I didn't even know. I didn't know she did all the things that I did not do. I said, oh, I'm so glad like I didn't get involved with her. Boy, but the Lord was just showing, if you wait on the Lord, he will direct your path. He will keep you from falling. But if you got to wait on him, see, if I'd have been in a hurry, I would have went with them, and then I would have been hurt again. But I waited, because I'm going to do what God wants me to do and not what I want to do. And so it came down to where I went out like on a I guess a venture. I just went somewhere. I went out to go get something to eat, and lo and behold, there was this lady that was in front of me, and I looked and I said, well, she looked nice. I said, like, I want to say something to her, so I just broke up a conversation about the menu, and we went from the menu, and went from there. We got a table together. We sat down, and we talked, and we were there in the afternoon, and we didn't leave that place until they were closing up. The whole place was closing. They had a live band. They were all packing up their things to go. We were still there talking. We enjoyed each other that much that we were just talking. But like I said, with everyone that I came across with, I brought them to the Lord. I prayed this. I asked, Lord, is this the one? If not, because I was ready to move on if it wasn't. But as I got off my knees, remember, as I got off my knees, the Lord gave me the answer right then and there. He said, she will make you a great wife. He said, the search is over. I fell in my bed that night. I mean, I was so happy. I fell in my bed and said, the search is over. I said, oh, Lord, how happy I was. And I have been happy ever since. I left the bitterness go. I let all the hurt go. And because you got to let it go. You can't hold on to it and expect to move on, because the Lord would say, let everything go. Don't bring it into the next year. Let it go. You got to let all the bitterness and the hurt and pain, you got to let it go. And Lord will give you the time to do it, because he's healing you during that process, as long as you're following him. You'll notice if you walk, when you walk with God, all the dead weight that you have on it will be getting dropped off. But every step that you take, it will drop off of you. But you gotta be faithful and doing what God wants you to do. You can't take it upon yourself, well, I'm just gonna do this part right here, and I'm gonna hold on to this part. Because you can't fool God. You can't fool. Go forth and do the things that God said do, then you're gonna come out victorious and you're gonna come out well pleased, because God's gonna give you his best for you. Not what you think, but it's what you need. And that's what God has given me. He blessed me with my bride, my queen, the one that I needed for me, just for me. And I thank God for it, because it's been a blessing ever since. We grow in ministry together. We don't do separate things as far as like, okay, you're gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I'll get back with you later on. No, we walk in ministry together. You know, everything has been like, so she was in ministry before I was.
Right.
You know, it was just like I was just going with her. She was going to church. I was going to church. You know, hey, I was supporting her and everything. It wasn't like I was trying to take over her life, take her away from going to church or nothing like that. We were walking together. And you would have to, when you meet somebody that's in the Lord, you have to walk side by side. You can't walk on like I say, from East Coast to West Coast. You can't walk like that. You gotta walk side by side, and you gotta be determined that you're not gonna let anything come in between. What God has put together, let no man put asunder. And you have to look at the things that are being presented, because there's gonna be a lot of things that are gonna try to tear you apart. A lot of, but you gotta know who you listen to.
That's right. Well, this is a common theme, because Kachi and Tony, when they first came on, they said the same thing about how they met, but they talked a long time. Steve and Pat, you know, they got to know each other. So that's I think that's the key to everything, that you have to really talk it out and get to know each other before anything else. So that's awesome. Okay, we're going to talk about the hurt. Thank you, Bernie, for being very transparent. And I'm pretty sure that people who hear this, they will benefit from it, because I know that I did. And I think when people are hurting, they do hurt other people. And that's unfortunate. But again, I'm thankful that God arrested you and said no more. But there are people out there who will continue to do that because they're hurting. So we are going to talk, let's talk about that, especially those who have really been damaged in relationships. Did you want to go and hurt other people like Bernie said he did, or how did you get over that? That's a sensitive question. But I do believe that when you talk about that kind of pain, and we're not just talking about emotional pain, we're talking about abusive pain, I mean, as well, you know, people who abuse other people because they're hurting. So has anyone been in, we talked about abusive relationships, but has anybody on purpose, and Bernie was transparent, so I think we all should be, have we ever tried to hurt someone on purpose? And it's no indictment on you, it's just honest. You know, sometimes we get in a space where we're just mad and angry at the whole world, and we just want to do what we want to do. We act out in the flesh. So has anybody kind of been in that space besides Bernie? Hello? Kaylin, you shaking your head, dear, please. Could you comment?
I guess after being hurt, I have this thing, I'll hurt you before you hurt me. So being very guarded is hurtful because the other person doesn't know why you're guarded, like you just shut down for no reason or you act out because anxiety comes over you from past traumatic experiences. So that's a form of hurt, I think, that I've imposed on other people.
Okay, wow. Thank you, Kaylin, for that. Anyone else? Y'all are kind of silent. Pat and Steve, come on now, really? Come on, let me hear from you.
Well, yeah, definitely before I met Steve, I was in a long relationship with someone, and there was a lot of hurt, and it was hurt and hurt back and forth. And he hurt me, and I hurt him, and it was a back and forth for several years. And I just got to the point I just can't do this anymore. I'm done. And even when I met my Steve, I was like, oh, he was nice and all, and I mean he was very genuine, but my heart was like, oh, I can't do this. We're not gonna do this. But yeah, you like Kayla said, you become guarded. You become like, I'm not going. It becomes draining emotionally, mentally, physically when you're hurt. And then like
You're going in and out a little bit.
Attempting to go to another relationship, you have to, you guard yourself because you don't want to fall and end up in the same situation. So yeah, I understand what Kayla means.
Wow.
Well, I was
Now there's something going on with your
been
computer,
in a
Steve.
relationship since my first life. Hear me well.
Okay.
Can you hear
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better. Yes.
Okay. Well, in my first relationship, my first wife, I met her. I was 11 years old. She was like 9. So we played girlfriend, boyfriend the whole time. And then, to make a long story short, as the years went on, we got married. I think I was 24. She was 21. And we stayed married for a number of years. But when that broke up, due to a whole lot of misunderstanding, and I guess earlier I was telling you, we just met through a marriage so young. But anyway, that was the only woman I ever really spent time with and been with, or consider,
Going
my
in and out again.
girlfriend, fiance, wife. That was the only woman ever been in my life. So when that dispersed, yes, I'm not letting nobody else in. I'm not getting close to nobody else. But and then I decided later on, I was like, you know what, God, I'm like, I wasn't even saved at the time. I wasn't even like dead in church. I'm making a mess out of things. And whatever direction you want me to go, that's the direction I'll go. But evidently God knew the type of person I were, and he knew how I was so home oriented and like doing things and, just being a family, because it's 14 of us, 7 boys and 7 girls. So we're all family oriented. So he knew I was a family type guy. So it was just one day I was going to the gym and saw Rob. She was on the what's that thing? Stepper, power stepper, treadmill, whatever. And I noticed her and she spoke and I spoke. And I would just every day, I would just come in, she'd be in the same place. And she'll speak and I'll speak. And I'll go in there and work out. And she'll come in there and she'll say a few things. She'll leave and I'll leave.
Okay.
But every day I went in the gym, she was there. So this one lady told me, she said, you know what? She said, Freeman, she said, that woman sits down and works on that machine until you pull up in that parking lot, and she speaks to you when you come in, and then when you go into the gym, she gets off. She said, every day she's on that machine until it gets to the gym. So I'm like, really? So, I mean, I didn't know back then, but now being more experienced and, knowing how life works, God was working something out then, because I was at the mentality, like, chest out, like, I ain't no woman coming in my life. I don't know. I'm already hurt and I'm not quite over that. So I'll keep it short. And, but to make a long story short, it ended up, we just kept talking. And one day she said, I said, what do you do when you're not in here? She said, well, not much. I go home, whatever. I said, well, let's take a walk. So we went to the 5-mile trail and we walked that whole trail and we talked and sat out there and talked. I mean, it got almost dark before we left. And we went out there in the early part of the evening. So just to make, just to let you know, sometimes when you ask God to do things and he opened up windows, like my man was saying, you got to take those opportunities because they don't keep coming. You got to know when is the right one. And you got to know what the right thing that she's saying that ignites you and the stuff that you're saying. You get each other attention and it just grows from there. And ever since then, we've like been just close, just tight. I can pretty much, like I say, complete her sentences and she can do mine. But it was just a gift. It's almost like we was meant to be together, even though I was there. I didn't want anybody else in my life, but God saw different. When I asked him to take over, he just saw it different.
Okay.
He moved on the way, he knew the direction I wanted and needed to go in.
Okay. Well, I thank you for that. Tony or Carlos, because I'm asking the men right now, because sometimes we women think that men don't hurt, that they have this tough shell and they don't have emotions. And for a long time, I really thought that. So I just need for somebody to, Carlos and Tony, can you all speak to that?
I mean, I can speak to it because it's very fresh in my mind. Kayla might know, just for the panel, basically Lenette and Keitha, we're related. So Keitha may not know, but Lenette, her and I have had long conversations when my my separation from my current wife happened. So my thing was this: when as my brother said, I'm gonna keep it short. In a nutshell, I just never understood what the situation, because as men, we do hurt. This is my second marriage. I wanted to work, but I am not going to compete with my spouse's family or her parent, because as guys, we will not win. We're not going to win, especially when it comes to a family member. If that family member is dominant in that woman's life, there's no way we can win. And that's just like, say, for the sake of arguments, to give an example, if you have a daughter that's very close to her father and she's always doing something for her father or her mother, and it's always been them, you're not going to come in between that. It's just not going to happen unless that parent accepts you. And with my situation, the parent didn't necessarily accept me. It's like when we first started dating.
Okay, now cut it short a little bit. Come on.
Okay, but basically us as men, we do hurt.
Yeah, okay. When you said real quick, because I want to address that, you're saying that that's just not going to happen, that if somebody is so close to that parent, then that's not going to happen. I disagree with that, and we're good to disagree with each other, only because if that person is in the Lord and that person says, look, my spouse is going, because that's how it's supposed to be. My spouse is coming first, no matter what. Now, I know before, but you have to separate. And if you don't, then there's no need to get married.
In my experience,
I know in your experience, that's what happened. But again, go back to, you didn't have to talk. Y'all didn't talk about stuff like that.
well, I got to disagree with you there, Lenette, because I did talk about this, because now I was married before and it was the same thing. Do I blame myself for maybe getting into the same situation? Yes, because I did not see the signs of the same thing.
Right.
as with her because she kept her mask on for a very long time.
Right. Okay. So, and we're going to stay on this for just a minute because I really do need to stress this out a little bit. As far as, like you said, you didn't see the signs, but did you make it clear to her that, look, I'm coming first? No, let me stop. Bernie and Teresa, I need for you all to address that part right there. Who comes first, and before you even get married. And if that person, and you see that that person is going towards, like you said, the parents, that marriage shouldn't even take place. But go ahead, Teresa.
Yeah, that's really a red flag. So many times we miss things during the dating season because that's not important. We don't sit down and have the talks that we really need to have. And that's a good one when we get married, what place I'm at. Because a lot of people don't know. We've been brought up like we see our parents, they didn't have the order right. So therefore, we don't get the order right. But once you become saved and you know how the order is according to God's standards, that's something that you really have to talk about. And we get in trouble because we don't talk about those things. And then when we get married, we try to talk about it then, but the damage has already been done. Like, you knew I put my mom and dad first, and you already knew this about me. And that's what some women will say. My mom is first, my dad is first, but the order of God is first, and then your spouse is second, and then the children. And we get it all mixed up. But that's definitely out of order. And a marriage cannot stand like that because as husband and wife, we definitely have to be first in each other's life besides God. And if not, if the order is messed up, then the marriage is messed up and it's not going to last. But both spouses have to understand that you're first in my life. And if not, it becomes jealousy. It becomes a whole lot of things that's going on that should not be going on.
And I understand what you're saying, Miss Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
And to the rest of the panel, because everyone doesn't know the backdrop of this, everyone doesn't know the backstory. There's certain things that Lenette doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I had this talk. I was previously married. So I did have this talk with her. Certain decisions that she had made gave me the impression that, okay, we're moving forward. We're getting aligned.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes right back to the way she was before. So like I said, it's as far as from the men, and I'm the only single man on this panel right now. So it's some ladies, I'm not going to point out my queens on the panel now, but basically some ladies can wear a mask very well. And that's basically what I found out. Was I hurt by it? Yes, I was hurt by it. I have moved on in essence of, but what I don't want to say, but I've moved on. The situation for me to try to go on with my life, she's holding it up. And that's what's irritating me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Kachi and Tony, can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, I think that, first of all, in any marriage, if God is first, then it's going to be easy to have conversation with that spouse if you want accord. Yes, we hide our hurt very easy. We hide it so that because black men are meant to be, we're built to be tough. So we can't show everybody what's going on. But yes, we hurt. But the same token is when there's a problem arise, we got to understand that if we put God first, we can make it. Because without God, he let us know you can't do anything that without him first, or with him in the midst of any relationship. Our relationship, people have a little, there's things come up, but you got to talk about it, whether who's right and who's wrong. But by putting God first, he's going to help you to understand that, we can get through this together. And sometimes, like we want things our way. But in token, some female will stand back and watch and listen, but then you talk, it's the conversation, you talk about it to iron things out, to make it work. But if God is in it, then it's an easy process.
Right. Okay. Well, here's a quote, and please listen carefully on this one. In marriage, you no longer know where the border lies between you and your wife, what she wants and what you want. Marriage is such an uncertain, uncomfortable, dangerous journey that if God does not accompany us, I wish that no one would. I wish this on no one. That's from a quote from the book Anna Karenina. And when I read it, I'm like, that's deep, y'all, really. Marriage is not to be taken lightly. It is just not. It's not for the faint of heart. It really isn't. And that's why I think so many divorces, because we get in it and we think that it's easy. And, you know, we're caught up in the, like you said, the outer, but we never really deal with that and dig in deep to that inner part. So when I read that, it just spoke to my soul. It just spoke. Jazzy and Z and anybody else before we go on? Hello? No? They just rocking. Z, can you hear me? Okay, all right. So before we go on, does anybody else have any comments on this? I do. One more question then. For the men, how do you hurt? Because we don't see that hurt a lot. Or it's like you said, that shell, but what do you do? Because it's like you shut down sometimes. And because you shut down, we're just like, okay, well, they don't care, or it doesn't matter. So how do you start to have a different dialogue or different behavior so that the women in your life can say, you know what, or you could just tell them, I'm hurting. But a lot of times that doesn't happen. We call it, and in my generation, that macho. So you have to keep up that appearance that like Carlos said, you can't show your feelings, but that's damaging to the relationship because the woman doesn't know what's on your mind. She's just thinking anything and everything. And it may be something simple, but because that's not a communication, that talk, then things go south. So can somebody, the men, I really need for the men and the women too, because if you've had men like that, can you speak on that?
Well, go ahead, Kachi.
Tony?
Okay,
I mean, Tony, I'm sorry.
yeah. Yeah, like I said before, hurt, but it's sometimes, you know, the female, once they're in tune with us, a female, your spouse, your lover, they can tell when you're hurt because we show it differently. We doesn't verbally say, I'm hurt, this got me down, but a woman, intuition, she can tell when she's connected with that man.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell when my wife is hurting. You know, she can tell when I hurt. She know when I shut down. I get quiet and I'm to myself. So she know to come to me and she do it. What's going on? Let's talk about it. And I was saying, I don't really want to talk about it right now. And she back away and she wait a little bit later, not long enough, and come back. Like I said, let's wait a little bit longer. So then finally, I break the shell and I talk about what's going on. You know, during my mom's death time is really hard for me, but she know when I began to shut down, something is going on. It could be with an employee. You know, she can tell because she's connected to me. Honestly, it's just like when people said they're identical twins that are connected, they're split from the same egg. A marriage is the same way. It's like where marriage should be like identical twins, split from the same.
And to piggyback off what Tony was saying, whereas I can only speak for it from my lens. Basically, if I'm hurt or I'm angry about something, I will shut down on you. Where if I start to like fiddle with my earring, basically I'm just turning the volume down on you, where I don't even hear you. And that's the way it was with my ex-wife and me. It's where, and then ladies, I'm not saying this to be mean because I've been told I have a tendency to be very direct and it's kind of painful. When you hurt us as men, We don't want to show that side. So we'll get quiet so we will not say something that we'll regret later. Because with me, if you, just like we were talking, if you hurt me, I'm gonna try to hurt you verbally. So it was something that my ex-wife said something to me. And like I said, since we're being transparent, basically just before I break up, I had told her that I had found a job somewhere else, blah, 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 whoop-de-whoop. And instead of her saying to me, if you so-called love me, you so-called pray for me more than you pray for yourself, you told me that, oh, I think that's the best thing for you. So in my mind, you're telling me you don't want to be married to me. So all I'm going to do is, okay, I'm going to give you your wish, because I'm not going to stay somewhere I'm not wanted. I can do, just like that movie, I can do bad all by myself.
Right.
Mr. Frederick, you were still hurt, aren't you?
Yes, because I feel my time was wasted, because I laid all 52 of my cards on the table.
But you know, when you go into a relationship, on not just a loving and marriage relationship, there's no guarantee that love gonna be the same coming back at you. But your love's supposed to be pure for her, so that your love cannot be measured. Whereas you saying, well, you got to love me a number 10 as I love you a number 10. Love comes in different ways, and the pain you're suffering is because you didn't get the love you wanted at your level. But some people level can't go that far, just haven't grown there yet. You got to have patience.
Well,
and your pain is your pain you're keeping because you don't want to admit you were, you wanted something that wasn't there at the time. I'm just saying, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, you spot on. Let me ask you this though. Now, I'm not dealing with a 20-year-old. I'm not dealing with a 30-year-old. I'm dealing with a 50-year-old woman. You better know what you want. Who may have had
experiences she didn't mature.
Wait. One at a time, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's, at that age though, like I said, I laid every single one of my 52 cards on the table before we even discuss walking down an aisle. It was one point in time in our relationship where her mother tried to be so involved with our relationship. I said, look, how about this? You need to make a decision. Is it your mama or is it me? I gave her the street aspect of it, and I gave her the biblical aspect of it. And I also said to her, marinate on this for 90 days, okay? And then come back to me.
Okay, and her answer was?
She chose me. And then I said, okay, this woman is maturing. And then, we, fast forward, we broke up at one point because she went right back to what she was comfortable with.
Okay, excuse me 1 second. Somebody has another sound or device on. Can you turn it off, please? Because it's interfering with the talk. Thank you. All right, so Carlos, yeah, thank you for that. And so you said that she chose you and then she went back. So
right.
Let me just ask, it's, like I said, we have about 5 more minutes on this subject. Can you, Mr. Bernie, can you talk about the hurt? I mean, you have already, but I just want to, did you bury it inside?
There was a time, yes, they was buried, but I learned to let it go, because as long as you keep holding on to it, it's gonna grow. So you gotta let it go in order to kill it. You have to let it go. But we have to remember, we're walking with God, we're following after God. We have to always commune with God and learn how to. We can't take it on ourselves.
Right. Okay. So I'm excuse me for interrupting you, but let me just say this. Everybody on this panel is not on the same level as far as relationship with God. Okay. Not only that, there will be people coming on that don't even know God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we need to address them as well. Okay. We're talking religion right now. I mean, not religion, but we're talking relationships. Everybody on here basically is talking how our relationship with God is, and that's why it's good, or that's why it should be good. But talk to the person or people who may not have that kind of relationship with God, or they don't even know God.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good point. That was a great point, because everybody does it. And it's true that we all go through things outside that other people don't know. And we do build up walls around ourselves. You know, I call it hide in the cave.
Mhm.
We get so mad. Well, I used to get so mad where I wouldn't say anything. Just like a lot of the gentlemen said, we shut down. It's like a protective mechanism that we use. We shut down. We don't want to talk because we know if we do say anything, we're gonna blurt out the wrong things. We know that. So we try to do that to protect ourselves because we don't know no other way. So we do have to be taught how to do things different. We do have to learn how to. And the way that I found that helps me is to let it go. You know, the more angry you get at, the bigger that situation get. So when you learn how to let it go, it's like putting a pin in a balloon and letting it just go down slowly. Let it go. You know, because if you don't, it's gonna turn into a monster. Yeah, and then too, like the person that you're with, if you don't have an agreement, you don't have no agreement with that person, go. Just leave. Don't waste no more time with it. Don't waste no more time.
But
Because
what if you're married? What if you're already in the marriage?
now that's a sensitive one right there. Because if you're already in the marriage, then you need counseling. Then you need counseling.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask another hard question. What if the man doesn't want to go to counseling?
Then we have a
Or
major
woman.
problem. We got a major.
I'm just, yeah, or woman, that's true. Thank
We
you.
have a major problem then we have a major problem because then you know it's one-sided. You know it's one-sided because you both have to be willing in order to have something together. And if only one wants to go, that means you have a one-sided
Relationship, which we do in society right now. It's a lot of marriages who are like that. So that's why I'm asking, can somebody, especially the married couples or anybody, can we speak to that on their level? Because again, sometimes we're talking God and religion, which is wonderful. That's who we are. But we have to also understand that there are other people who are not there yet.
That's true.
That's
What-
true. This Kim speaking, Lenette.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Well, that was the thing with when me and my husband were going through what we was going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, we need to seek out counseling. And for me coming from, counseling, having a master's in counseling, he told me, no, he was not going. And I said, well, I think our marriage over with, because if you don't go to counseling, I'm not going to stand this. So we have to try all that we can to work on our marriage. So I have a very sore spot with that because, like I said, for me coming from counseling, you have to try everything and all you can to keep your marriage together until you say, God, it's nothing that I can do. It's in your hands. Go from there. But from somebody that's not coming from godly or biblical, I'm driving everyone, but I hope y'all can hear me.
We can hear
But
you.
from
Yes.
someone that's not coming, that's not godly and or do not have a relationship with God. So coming from the worldly point of view, yes, they can still get counseling. Some of them do, and it can work, and they just don't build it on the things of God. They build it on their worldview. And sometimes it looks like they are winning. But not necessarily. But our faith, the ones that have the faith in God, well, we know what God can do. See, yeah, you have people that is not into God. They feel like, why God ain't did this, or why ain't you still waiting? But they don't understand the part of being patient. And God will come through. He always come through. It may not look the way they wanted to look, but he come through.
Right. Okay, so I think we talked earlier, and I'm going to address this and we're going to go on, but this is really interesting. How do you address something that, okay, we talked about the how a person is not willing to go to counseling, okay? But how do you address the fact that if a person that's in the church, an elder or a pastor or a counselor, a biblical counselor, and they are telling you to stay in a marriage, and that marriage is basically unbearable now. Now hear me well. We're not talking about infidelity. We're not talking about anything like that the Bible says that is okay to divorce. But let's just say there's just verbal abuse, there's just neglect. You are absolutely, your soul is dying because you are in that relationship. Can anybody speak to that? Anybody?
That's why I'm where I'm at. That's why she's where she is.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would on that because first of all, I mean, you don't have Christ in it. The only thing you really have is his unmerited grace. That's all you have. And if Christ is not in it, I mean, if you're having problems already, I don't care if a deacon or a pastor tell you to stay in it, it's not going to work. You are an adult. You know what time it is. So the best thing to do is just drive on. That application has ended. You didn't get the job. It's it's over. So you already. I mean, a lot of times people already know when something's really going to work out. The female know whether she did all that she can do. The male that this is not going to work. You're trying to hold on to a dead horse that you cannot resuscitate. Over.
So true.
Right. And to piggyback on what Tony is saying, that's the way it was with my ex-wife.
Okay.
It's one, it was her house. So two, we're walking around not really even talking to each other. I'm not going to live like that because I'm not living that. I cannot talk to myself in my own house.
Right. I got you.
I mean,
like I said, I'm addressing this only because, again, there are marriages who people are just miserable. And how do you spend the rest of your life, 20, 30 years, in a relationship that you are absolutely miserable in? But because people say you have to stay in it. And I'm not negating anything because God knows I'm an advocate. I believe in the Bible. I believe what God says as far as divorce. But I also understand that sometimes when we are not saved before we get married, and let's say we know God, but we're already in the marriage, and now it is like, what am I going to do? I didn't know before. Nobody taught me, okay, but I'm in it. And I'm dying, really. That you have a dying soul. And when that happens, you are just, what do you do with that? I mean, it's sad, and you can see it on that person's face. Mm-hmm. You can see how horribly sad they are. And that compassion, that's why we have this talk. Because I don't like to see anyone with a sad countenance. I just don't. I mean, that's my heart, is for people to be healed, delivered, and set free. That's what this is about. This ministry is about. How do we get there? Well, we get there by all of us coming together, and we're talking, and we're just making sure that, first of all, it's God-based. But again, everybody doesn't know God. So we have to speak to those people as well. So I thank you all for, this forum, because it's really helping a lot of people. So
can I ask the panel one question, Lenette?
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you guys opinion.
Real quick.
I'm gonna make it. Yeah, it's gonna be real quick. At the end of the day, how much is your peace worth to you? At the end of the day, how much is your peace worth to you?
That's a very good question. Yeah. Yeah.
But I said last time we were on here that, do you all think that we replicate what we saw growing up, becoming adults, young adults? And I saw my parents, I saw them fall in love after 20 years because my dad and my mom was busy feeding 6 children and taking care of everything we needed. So I saw them after I became a young adult myself. I saw them fall in love. I don't think they was like really in love when they first got together, because in the African-American experience, the grandparents and then your parents, they're trying to survive and raise the family. So to hear the words say, "I love you," or some flowers brought home. I don't know about you all. I didn't see that. I was born in the 50s. So
Right.
I think what I tried to replicate when I got out in the world was my dad. I love my love, you know, a girl gonna love her dad. So I'm trying to find a strong man who works hard and tells the truth. That's what I wanted. Just tell the truth, because I feel like my father taught me to tell the truth. But
Right.
what I learned is that I have to really get my authentic self first. Like, what do I want out of relationship, out of marriage? And what I knew I wanted was someone similar to my dad, of course, but also I couldn't put it on my husband because he's not my dad. But I could put the basics on him of respect, me as a lady, respect if I'm his, when I was his wife, no lying, no cheating, no stealing, no things of that nature, that I couldn't change what he had saw when he came up. And of course, you exchange stories as children, you know, experience that, or things of that nature. But I couldn't change how he perceived women or how he perceived what his goals were. And I had to weigh that up. That not that I hated him. In fact, when we went and got divorced, we went to dinner afterwards and had a nice dinner. Because, you know, I was saying, you know, it just didn't work because we came from different environments and wanted certain things out of life. And I didn't blame him. Of course, it took 6 years to get the divorce because we were fighting a little bit, you know, on paper. But
Right.
I did recognize the fact that I could not blame him for what I perceive I need for my life when I realized he didn't know, and he wasn't raised the way I was.
Right.
You know.
But then go back to, and this it keeps going back to time and time again, the talk that we didn't have that serious talk. That's what it all boils down to. And I thank you all for reiterating, because it is what it is. We want to get into a relationship. We want to do this, but the bottom line is the work has to be done. And that's why we're having this conversation for Kaylin and for Tiffany and anybody else who wants to get married again. That's why we're having this conversation, because the next time you get into a relationship, you'll know more questions to ask, or you will look out for the red flag. So this was a long one, but we're gonna go on real quick. The next one is body language. And I think we talked a little bit about this because Kachi mentioned it, I think 2 weeks ago, about body language. And body language, it tells all, especially in a relationship, it just does. And I am a very observant person. So when I go out to restaurants and even at church, I used to say, you know what, why would I want to get married again? Because I'm looking at these couples who've been married for maybe 5 years or 35 years, and they're so disconnected. And but they want to put on a good front, because I'm just going to be very transparent. Sometimes it's so irritating when couples front and they're not honest with each other, because other people can see that the relationship is not good because of the body language. And sometimes you can't even hide the body language because it's so apparent. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Again, when I'm in church sometimes, or just anywhere, restaurant, and the bodies are, one is this way and one is that way. They're not touching. Now I see all of you all before I even said anything. The married couples are good. You know, Robin and Steve, you always have your hand around Robin. You know, it's a good thing. You know, that's good to see. But I don't see that all the time. And then that's why you wonder why people are turned off by marriage. You know, because again, go back to, it's a dangerous road to follow. You know, it's a dangerous road to go down. And unless you have that, like you said, that bond that you become one, it's ugly. It can get really ugly. And so I'm speaking to that because, again, I'm just speaking to everybody who listens to this. Don't try to front, because we see it. We see.
But do you become one? The married couples, do you become one?
Yes. So can anybody speak
that's
on
And the
that?
key word,
one or the other.
Okay.
and the key word is becoming. But I wanted to ask you something. Well, not really ask you something, but I wanted to bring this up. It's seasons in marriages, not, you know, how we do the seasons in real life physically, but what if they're on a winter season where they're going through something, but that's, you know, it's not, or it don't have to always be that way. Meaning maybe you observe or could have observed someone during their off season, meaning they going through something and they may not feel that, but that season may pass and they'll get to their spring and summer season where they're lovey-dovey and hugging and loving and just like children.
Okay, well, I'm just speaking for people that I see year after year in church. Okay?
No, but you know our seasons could be for a while. Some people stick
Okay,
it out, but
well, let me just speak on that because really, if you like we're saying that we're talking about church folks now. So if you are in church and you have a relationship with God and God comes first and you do all do the math, then why would the seasons keep going on when you are working it out and you're praying with God and you're working together as one? That's my question. Because I know everybody has seasons, but the season shouldn't last long. This is like a year. We got winter, spring, summer, and fall. Okay? Winter, spring, summer, and fall. Then winter should not go into spring or fall.
Now, we talking about actual church folk or schmoes? Sunday morning nomads.
Hey,
that's a question.
We're talking about people who, like I said, you're trying to front. You're not being honest, you know, and
Those are the
people are
schmoes.
seeing that. And you're supposed to be examples for me. Okay. I want to get married again, I think. But if I'm looking at this, if I'm looking at people who are just, you know, they're not even connected with one another or not even trying, you know, at least at dinner, you could at least have some kind of conversation. But I'm looking, and I know I'm supposed to be eating, but I'm so fascinated with them, you know, because I'm like, how do you sit at a table with somebody for an hour and not
You don't talk to them.
But they only have conversation.
They don't none.
They don't have conversation at the table.
Or to see with the bag struggling.
Yeah.
I think someone be taking someone for granted. I think that happens.
I'll finish my dinner and go watch TV.
You're taking her for granted. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, you know, yes, taking it for granted, but can y'all speak to this for the singles and the singles? Can you speak to that because you've seen it? My sister and I, we talk about that a lot.
I believe that every season that you go through, that you should get stronger through every season, especially as a husband and wife, because during each season, you should be helping each other grow. So when you out in the public, wherever you are, even if you're going through a rough season, you should go through that season together and it should make you stronger. You know, when people see you, we ought to be an example. So when people see your marriage, they ought to look at your marriage and say, man, I wish I had a marriage like that. Not like, oh my God, if marriage is like that, I sure don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to get married. Yeah, we do have to realize that people are watching us. You know, they're watching us, and the way that if we putting on a front, that shows that at home is nothing going on. So it begins in your household behind the closed doors, how you act, and that's going to reflect how you act on the inside. So if they at the restaurant not talking, believe me, they're not talking at home either.
That's right.
That's right.
So we have to really be careful how we display our marriage to people on the outside. They're looking at us. So seasons should make us grow. They should make us grow. They should make us be closer to each other. When Bernie's going through something, he's having an off season, I should be there to help him grow through that season and vice versa. And somebody was talking about becoming one. You know, it's hard becoming one. When you first get married, you learning everything about that person. It's hard becoming one, but if you go through those trials and tests to become one, you become a strong unit. Like I said, you finish each other's sentence and all that. When one see you, they see the other, even if you're not there. So we definitely have to be a light when we're outside shining, even in the home towards each other. Because if you have a spouse that's not saved and living according to the word of God, you can be a light for that person. So we need to talk to each other. We need to learn how to laugh, become best friends. It shouldn't be a person on the outside that's your best friend. You got your spouse right there. And that's what happens in a lot of marriages, because people get married for the wrong reasons. You know, I just want me somebody and this person look good and all this and that, but you don't have nothing in common with that person. That's something that we really have to make sure we get in our mindset when we're single. Make sure the person that you say I do to is a person that you really enjoy being around, because you're going to be with that person for the rest of your life. Some people are married and they don't even like each other. They might love each other, but they don't really like each other. But I wanted to get married, so here you are, so let's do it. You know, that's a bad reason to get married.
that's a jail sentence, really.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, really.
It
So
is.
Lisa, I haven't heard from you, married woman.
Hey,
Hey.
Hey,
I'm just listening. I'm taking it all in.
Hey.
Are you a newlywed, Lisa?
Yes, this marriage, it'll be 3 years in August.
Mhm. So you're just taking it all in. Do you have anything
I'm
to
taking
say
it all
before-
in.
If you all became one?
Yes, I say that because we're still learning things about each other.
Mhm.
We're working through some things. Um, um, yeah, I could say we're one. I mean, because we always check with each other. I know when he's upset or something is wrong with him. He definitely knows when he always try to come and talk to me when I get real quiet on him. He know, oh, something is going on. He always try to ask me a question. He always try to get me to talk.
Okay.
And because a lot of times I just get quiet when I'm upset. I just get quiet. But he knows that there's something wrong, and he'll just keep trying to ask me a question. And eventually, I'll tell him what's wrong. But yeah,
Is your second marriage, right?
yes,
So,
it is my
so
second
you're
marriage.
you're learning so much more in your second marriage than,
My first, yes.
okay, all right. All right, so we're gonna go on because we don't have a lot of time. One more question, and that is, we haven't spoken about divorce to the divorced people in here. So how many are divorced on this panel? Raise your hands.
does the first one count?
Yeah. Does first one
Well,
count?
no, okay, we're not talking about the married people. We're talking about just,
Okay.
not that you probably have been divorced before, but we're gonna talk to you about that, but, and that's important. But how many are divorced right now and single, but have been divorced and single? So you, Jazzy, Cheryl, that's it. Okay, good. All right, so Lisa, you have the divorce statistics on how divorce affects a single person as opposed to someone who's married.
Well, it says tying the knot is tied to longer lifespan. This is a new data shows. It says married folks not only live longer than singles, but the longevity gap between the two groups is growing. They did a study between 2010 and 2017, and it says not only is the rate of for married folks lower, but it is declining more than any other group. And it says that statistically, death rate is the annual number of deaths for every 100,000 people. It's suggested so that 26-year-olds and an 80-year-old married or widow or divorce are on equal footing. So there was just different numbers, different categories they were talking about. And this is, once you're in a marriage, there are a host of tangible and intangible benefits that give you a health advantage. Married people are more likely to have health insurance, therefore have better access to health care. Being married also means you have someone looking out for you and reinforcing healthy behaviors. And it talks about having someone there who's your spouse will tend to promote positive health behavior, going to the doctor, eating better, getting screened, and etc. And they said this is particularly true of men who previous studies have shown derive more health benefits from marriage than women. Men tend to have fewer skills than women in terms of looking after themselves. Finally, the companionship of marriage starves off health problems associated with loneliness and isolation. It says, all these benefits also explains why widow people tend to do badly after the death of their spouse. And it just goes into different, okay. It goes into different scenarios of married versus divorced and widowed, both for men
Okay.
and female.
Okay. So with the divorce, and every divorce is different, and everyone feels differently after they get a divorce. Cheryl, we were talking earlier, and Cheryl, are you here? You still on? Okay. Can you tell how you felt when you got your divorce? Because mine is totally different.
Well, my first husband, we were together 33 years. And to me, I felt like he died. I felt like that my heart was just coming out of my chest. I feel like I lost a piece of me, even though we were divorced. It's still, you still love him. You still have that soul tie there. And it was hard. And I thought getting remarried, I got remarried. I got divorced in March and I got remarried in November, thinking that was gonna fix it. That's a lie. That's a lie from hell. It does not fix it. You have to allow yourself to heal. You have to allow God to let you see where you made your mistakes at. You can't bring somebody else into a relationship to make up for what the first one wasn't doing. And recently, after we got divorced, we became the best of friends. And recently I saw him and he got remarried. And I thought I was over it because it's been like almost 17 years, but it never goes away like you think it should. Because when you with somebody that length of time, your heart just goes out, regardless how they treated you, regardless what you went through. You know, I still loved him as my husband, but I knew I had to move on. So recently he got remarried, like I said, and God showed me now I can move forward, because when he got remarried, I didn't feel like a part of me went with that marriage. I feel like now I could stand there and say, congratulations, I wish you and your spouse the best. You know, I could give my blessings. It was a whole different mindset. It was a whole different heart set. But to me, I often hear that divorce is the closest thing to the death of a spouse. And it is so true.
Okay. So like I said, everybody's feelings or experience is different. You know, I'm not making light of it at all, but mine is not like that at all. It wasn't like that at all. So, but anybody else? Can anybody else speak on that as far as divorce is concerned and how you felt? And I'm talking about the married people too, who this is their second or third time, doesn't matter, you know, please speak up. How did you feel?
With my first marriage, good riddance, talk to you later, we co-parent, we're done. This one, it's bothering me because as Jazzy and I bounce certain things, it's because I put my heart into it. I just knew my first marriage, the other person just wasn't ready to be married. They said they were, and this woman was older than me too. But this one here is like, I put my all into it. That's where I feel like I was blindsided. Like, you know, the guys understand it's like, okay, I'm a right-handed quarterback and I'm looking and I turn my head to the left and pow.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you, Carlos. Tony, and then
Frederick. Yeah, well, Frederick, I mean, brother, I love you as a brother, but bro, you got some healing. You are still in love. You're still in love, I can tell. But with my first marriage, I'm not gonna lie, was married for 5 years, no children. The day, I don't remember when we got divorced. I really don't, but it was a celebration. But now we're best friends. So, but we had not, I knew when I got married, it wasn't meant to be. I knew it wasn't going to work out because I wasn't ready. She wanted to get married. I did not. We got married. I knew day one it wasn't going to work out because I got married. I said, no, I ain't married to nobody. And I took a marriage certificate that was legal. She said, still legal. I said, no. I was young. I was 23 years old, but I knew it wasn't meant to be. I knew it wasn't going to work out. Fast forward 10, 15 years later, I met this queen right here. This is my African queen. Then after talking with her over the phone for 12, 14 hours the first night, I knew that it was meant, I knew it was going to happen. I didn't know it was going to happen as fast, but I knew it was meant to be. So therefore, yeah, there's a big difference. But when you love somebody, and you can't change your love that you have for them. The young lady married for 30 years. That's like having, if you had children, I know it's a big difference, but 30 years is a long time. It takes a long time to get out of it. When you see them, yeah, you can think back years that you guys put into it. But then, you gotta let it go. How do you let it go? Christ gotta be in it. For you to totally you'll never get over it because it's like a death. It is like a death, but it's having Christ in your life and knowing that. Yeah. So that's on that part there.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm feeling kind of some kind of way because, and not because of you, Tony. I'm just myself. I'm looking and kind of looking inward to myself, because when you say that divorce is like a death and you'll never get over it, and because you love that person, and I can't say that. And so then I'm wondering for myself, because I'm being very transparent, I'm wondering for myself, then was that really love? Because if I don't feel that way, agape love, Jazzy said it the last week.
Yeah.
You want to have the best for that person. You want the best for that person. And I do.
Yeah.
But I'm not sad because I got divorced though.
Right. No, what I was saying, Lenette, no, I was talking about the young lady, Cheryl. No, she was married for 30 years. So there was there. The young man that was married, his second wife, I know it was love. Like I said, I was married for 5 years. I ain't feel nothing. There was nothing. So I knew it wasn't meant to be from the beginning. But we was married for 5 years. I went through the motions, but when we, but I was never faithful because, as the young lady said before, her dad was one way. My dad was totally opposite. And yes, there is a legacy that you can carry from one generation to another generation. I took my father's legacy with me when I got married. And yes, I was cheating before I got married. I was cheating the day I got married, cheating a week later. It was not meant to be. But after that, when Christ came into my life, I said, Christ, you got to help me here because I need you. I can't do it by myself. Don't put the same legacy into this marriage. But because of Christ came into my life, I even told my father, I said, Dad, the legacy that I had with you is cut off. I said, it's done. Because the first marriage, yeah, we fought because I wanted to go out, and that's what I did. I had to fight to go out. I'm just being honest. You guys can hate me later, but I'm gonna tell you the truth.
It's good, it's transparent.
We fought because that's what my daddy did. He fought my mom every Sunday night at 7 o'clock. It was time for a ringside seat.
Wow.
Get your popcorn ready.
And I did the same to my wife because my daddy did it. I feel like I was supposed to have done it too. And I realized at the end, today I can say, when we see each other now, we speak, we talk, and we're at the same church. But, I even went to her, asked her to forgive me because I was wrong, but I wasn't ready for it. She forgave me, and she called me now, but we're good friends. If she asked me for some money now, I asked my wife, could I help her? But
no.
I'm just that kind of guy. But knowing that I got to be honest and tell the truth about it.
Yeah.
It was not meant to be. When we divorced, I ain't never miss a beat. It was the best thing that could ever happen.
And
excuse me, what I did had to admit to myself. That's why I'm not angry with my ex, because I had to admit I was a good wife in every way. I made sure that I thought I had defined what a good wife is, and that's what I was. But the one thing I did I wasn't in love with him. So
Mm.
they didn't work, even though I
That
was
makes a
a
difference.
good wife. But no love there. And then after so many years, I realized he didn't love me either. So we both was 50-50 or whatever, should not have done it. So I can't be angry at him because it's like when you go on a job and you get your responsibilities and you know you're getting paid for whatever wages. So I feel like when I got in there, I said, well, long as I be the good wife, I think there's a television show, but I was a good wife. I thought it would work. But the
Right.
reality is, I think the love and agape love and the love of unselfishness and unconditional love has to be there to grow, I think. And I admitted to myself, it wasn't all his fault. I just didn't love the man.
Right.
And
Z, let me get with Z because I haven't heard from her and Tiffany before we get off. Z, can you speak to that about the divorce and how you felt? You're on mute.
Yeah.
Who, me?
Yeah, you're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta do it.
Oh, I felt.
Oh, I'm talking
mean,
about Z. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. And then Z.
Oh, I
I'm
thought
sorry.
you said
Oh,
Z,
okay.
Z.
Okay, go ahead.
Z and then Steve.
Oh, well, I was glad to get out of mine, and yeah, I was glad to get out of mine, and we're friends to this day, and I've been divorced for 26 years. I didn't realize I'd be, still divorced all this time, but I was glad to get out of the marriage because it wasn't good. I don't, um, I don't, I don't feel like I'm going to carry into a next relationship, negative things and look at that guy and treat him, maybe perhaps differently, or treat him, treat him like I was treated in my marriage because I already knew that, there wasn't a good marriage. And I know that every man is not like, the one I was married to. I did know that going forward when I came out of the marriage. I just knew that I got into a bad marriage and I deserved better. And it was, there's something running out there for me, going forward. But
Okay.
if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, that was good. Okay, Steve. Thank you, Zelda.
Well, I guess I was a little uptight, a little upset, but when I asked God to step in and just take control, I believe now, firmly believe that sometimes we choose people on our own instead of, doing it, talking to them like we're supposed to and saying all the hard questions, which we didn't do. And we just so infatuated and everybody else is involved and they saying, y'all make a nice couple, but you're basing everything on that instead of just concrete, hard questions. And we didn't do that. So when I realized when everything fell apart, that I did everything that I could possibly do to keep that marriage together. And when you can't force anybody to stay with you who don't want to be there. So when it does disperse, when it separates, and you have done your part, and always felt like God seems to see favor in the one who honors the marriage rather than the one who dishonors the marriage. So when we broke up, I felt like, I did my part. God, okay, what do you want me to do now? Take it, do whatever you choose. I was in my front yard when I said that, and he just moved in the way he thought that I would want to go. And this is where I'm at. I'm not mad at her. I'm over it because I know I've done my part, as far as being a husband. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. No, we had little flaws back and forth and all that, but I know I've done my part as a husband. I was a provider. I love that in me, but sometimes that's still not enough. If you're not equally yoked, then sometimes it could fall apart. It could really fall apart. Yeah. So I feel like, God blessed me with who I should have been with or needed to be with, or maybe I should have took a little more time. You know, he got married at 23. I got married at 24. But you know, we just infatuated. We just all excited, and everybody said, "Well, y'all make a nice couple. You should get married." But that's not the real reason why you should get married.
That's right. Okay.
And I just felt like if we had took more time and really talked more into each other more, and you know, got into God and got into church and did what we're supposed to do, it may have lasted. But you know, we're young. You know, we didn't know all that then, but now I do know.
And now you're with the person that you're supposed to be with.
Yes, I'm with my queen.
You're with your queen. That's right.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a little bit more time. I want to hear from Kaylin and Tiffany. What do you think about this whole conversation? I just need for you to just speak on that. Let's start with Kaylin, and then Tiffany, I want to hear from you last, okay? You close it up. Kaylin?
I think it's a lot of wisdom. It's a lot to process. I'm definitely getting the gist of like an eye opener of what marriage is. It's not cookie cutter. And I don't know, it's just a lot of emotions because don't even know, like don't even have prospects. So it's just a lot to process at this time. So yeah.
Okay. Well, you're gonna have some prospects, okay? Yeah. You do have them, you probably just don't know about it, but. Okay, Tiffany?
Well, kind of just to piggyback off of what you said earlier, I mean, I'm a people watcher too. And so when I'm out and about, like you said, whether it be at church or, you know, at the movies when they were open and it was safe to go, you know, in restaurants, I people watch also. And sometimes you'll see a couple that is clearly a couple and they definitely aren't engaged in each other. Sometimes you'll see one engaging in others outside and it's like, okay, like did the person they're with not notice, you know, that look that they gave somebody else or things of that nature? Or like you said at church, you know, there's like a disconnect and it's like, okay, not saying that people have to be lovey-dovey 100% of the time, but it's like, do you even like that person, you know, based on how they interact with one another? So, you know, that can be a little off-putting, like, okay, is this what I have to look forward to? But then of course you do see other couples and you're like, okay, yeah, like, and you know, behind closed doors things may not be perfect, but you know, at least they're showing some love to one another, you know, while they're in the presence of others. So you know, that makes things a little bit more hopeful. But I do think that, you know, it's important, and based on like what Kaylin said, you know, there's wisdom in listening to hearing what other people have gone through and hearing what they got out of the situations that they were in, you know. So for those who are married once and then they said, okay, well, I did some self-work and realized this is what I did wrong in the first marriage, so I'm not going to take that into the second one. Or maybe I shouldn't have had that first marriage because, you know, I could have waited. And, you know, hearing that also, because sometimes it does seem to be a rush, because if, you know, if we're talking reality, you know, like for females, our biological clock is different from males. And so you do reach a certain age. When I was younger, I was like, okay, so by 28, I'm going to be married. By like 31, I'm going to have my last child. That way, when they graduate from high school, I won't be 50. Yeah, it didn't happen that way. And so, you know, life goes on, but whatever God's plan is, is God's plan. So that's all we can wait on.
Well, that's good. On that note, I mean, you can't say anything other than thank you, Tiffany. We're going to end that on a good note. That's not unless anybody else, but I think she said it all right now. Yes. I appreciate you all. I thank you for this talk. It's always wonderful. It really is. My new book, I had to redo it again. This is what it looks like, and it's the same as this one right here. So I will get the other copies on Friday. They will come in. So I'm so thankful for that. We're going to have some more talks. This is actually the second edition because I added some more things to this book. for us to talk about. So thank you so very much. I appreciate everybody. And next week, I think I told Kim I'm not going to tell, but we're going to do a test. So please make sure you come on so you can get this test that we're going to give you, because it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.